Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, yeah, the SEC, they're down at their spring meetings, and it's a war room. And Notre Dame is very special.
I'm so popular. Everybody loves me so much.
They have to get all kinds of special treatment. We're going to talk all about that too. But first, let's get into the SEC and what they're up to at their spring meetings. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how the SEC and the Big Ten have combined. They're basically two of the biggest kids in school. They're the two bullies. And the worst thing you can have is two bullies combined, because then they just go around and dominate the school. And that's pretty much what's happening right now. Sankey and Petiti are just going around controlling everything. And the Big 12 and the ACC, especially those two conferences, they're not enjoying that. But there's really not much they can do. And Paul Feinbaum's been down there in the SEC meetings just talking all about this. He's had multiple meetings and put it on X. I'm going to play you a few clips and let you kind of get a feel for what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, and I understand it is a powerful coalition. And for Greg Sankey to move toward the Big Ten, it's like, why do, if you cover NASCAR, why do you draft behind, why is the guy in second place in better shape? Because he's going to get the propulsion to move ahead of the guy in first. But you'd rather be in business with the Big Ten than the other two. But it was still a questionable choice to some people watching.
Right, and of course, you brought up legislators making comments and things like that. I mean, look, this does anger the ACC and the Big 12, and to me, it's not worth, again, propping up the Big 10 unnecessarily for all of that backlash that you're going to get from a lot of different factions.
Yeah, I think the decisions have been made. They're like, okay, we've got all the power. Let's not fight each other. Let's just do this. I think it's the right choice for the SEC and Big 10 to do this. There's so many changes going on. We're going to talk about the playoff, the big, huge college football playoff changes that are coming for 2026. And we're also going to talk about the 5 versus, I said yesterday 5 and 7. It's really 5 and 11, which is what the other conferences want for the college football playoff, whereas the SEC and the Big 10 want a 4-4-2-2-1 plus 3. And we'll go into that as well. And there's really some important reasons why the 4-4 is the way to go. And let's listen to this clip.
This idea of multiple AQs, lopsided number of AQs. This was an idea that I believe originated from the Big Ten's camp. I think the Big Ten is the one that most passionately wants this idea of, we call it the 4+4+2+2+1 format with 4 AQs for the Big Ten and the SEC. But it seems like what started as a Big Ten idea has gained some support from SEC athletic directors, having that security of automatic bids for the conference. Now, what's interesting is I don't think the SEC needs this model. And in fact, in some ways, I think this model that was floated by the Big Ten would hamstring the SEC in ways that, say, a 16-team, all-at-large format would not hamstring the conference. If you think about it, the format that's being discussed here, this AQ format, the SEC would be restricted from 9 of the 16 bids. This is the big, bad SEC we're talking about.
And there's some truth in that because, look, last year, Alabama, South Carolina, and I believe Ole Miss would have all three gotten into a 16 team if it was 5 and 11. So there are some good arguments for that. But there are 3 reasons why the SEC wants the 4-4-2-2-1 as opposed to 5-11. Number 1, with the 4 automatics, you can do a play-in game or a play-in championship weekend where you have, well, I've shown you this. I'll show it again. And that's where basically, and this doesn't have to be a bye right here, this Texas versus Georgia. This could be the championship game, or you could give these 2 teams a bye into the playoff because they earned it. But having 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5 is a great way to go on the weekend because it's more money, more games. It's more exciting games because these 2 teams were in no matter what. All we were doing is deciding who gets the trophy. These games would matter a ton. So if you don't have the 4 automatic qualifiers, you could not have that weekend at all. So that's a huge amount of money that, look, every conference wants more money right now.
Give me the money. Give me the money.
And this is an opportunity for the SEC and Big Ten to both get a large swath of money. And also, they could do the same thing at a smaller level, Big 12 ACC. They would just have 2 and 3 play, as in playing games. And the nice part of that is if you lost those games, let's say you're Tennessee or South Carolina and you lose a game or whatever in the weekend championship, you still can go to a bowl game. Same for Ole Miss or Alabama. So it's not like that would be the end of the road for you. So there's a lot of reasons to want to do this. The second reason is the SEC, or Greg Sankey specifically, wants to go to 9-game conference schedule. You're not going to get the coaches and the athletic directors to go in on that unless there are 4 automatic spots guaranteed, because they know when you pick up a 9th SEC conference game, you're adding half a loss to your record, which is almost all what the College Football Playoff Committee cares about. Wins and losses is number 1 by far. Strength of schedule is way down there in 3rd or 4th place as far as in level of importance. And they proved that to you last year. So to get to the 9 games and to get that extra $80 million from ESPN, you're going to have the 4 autos. Otherwise, like I said, the other teams won't go along with it. The third reason that Sankey and Petiti wants the automatic 4-4-2-2-1 is they want to do an SEC Big Ten showdown, where every year the best teams in both conferences square off, and you have basically a conference versus conference series, which could be some amazing TV. You could have Penn State versus Tennessee, Ohio State versus Georgia, Texas versus Oregon, whatever, and you could do that every year. And Big Ten does not want to play the SEC unless they go to 9-game conference schedule, because they feel like with 9 conference games they already have, that's too hard on them to have to play an SEC team on top of their conference schedule.
That's not fair!
Don't raise your voice to me.
I'm just telling you how it is. You may not agree with that. You may think, well, there's a lot weaker teams in the bottom of the Big Ten, which would be true. But they're just not going to do that. So, again, because that's a lot of money and would be great for TV rights, and that's what Petiti understands better than anybody, that's another reason why the 4-4-2-2-1 makes a lot of sense for both commissioners. So the SEC is trying to figure out this week while they're down there in Florida, and look, they're not playing golf. They're meeting, and trying to figure all this stuff out, because everything's coming down the line right now. House versus NCAA. You've got the loyalty pledges. You've got Tennessee saying, hey, we're going to do our own thing because this flies in the face of antitrust laws and litigation, and we don't want to get sued.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
And I think Tennessee's 100% right about that, by the way. And I think what I just said is going to age really well.
How's bragging camp going?
They're also going to be talking about the portal window, trying to knock that down. They need to get rid of the spring portal. That's just a dumb thing. You can ask Tennessee all about how that worked out. But it's definitely a war room footing, because the decisions, this is the most important spring meeting they've ever had. And Big Ten just got done with theirs in Los Angeles. And these decisions that they make are going to affect the next several years, because it all boils down to what the SEC and Big Ten want to do, because they have the final say in the college football playoff setup. It's just a fact. So this has been fun to keep up with, and I'll keep watching this spring meeting and see what comes out on it. Now I want to talk about Notre Dame. Now I give Notre Dame a bunch of grief, not because I dislike Notre Dame. It's a great school. It's a fantastic school. And they've got a really good athletic department. They just flat out do. But they get so much special treatment because they refuse to join a conference, and they take advantage of every opportunity. And I'm not the only one that sees this. This is a Locked On Big Ten, and of course they would love to have Notre Dame in the Big Ten. But they're getting a little bit tired of the precious pup status that Notre Dame seems to enjoy, and it's getting old. And this is Craig Sheeman. He's been doing this a long time. He's one of the Locked On guys, and he knows what he's talking about.
It is ridiculous how the college football world keeps coddling Notre Dame football. The latest playoff seedings adjustments is further proof of this. And Notre Dame joining the Big Ten has been put on the back burner for now. Locked On Big Ten starts right now. I'm sick and tired of college football bending over backwards to continue to intentionally or unintentionally give Notre Dame a competitive advantage by having one set of rules for its 133 Division I FBS teams and another set of rules for Notre Dame. Every dayers know I talk about this. It's a pet peeve of mine. Notre Dame football is just like anybody else. They're just like everybody else. We're all playing for the same championship here, same as everybody else. I don't have a problem with changing the seating rules that we did last week. It makes sense in a lot of ways. Except this allows Notre Dame, if they finish the regular season with no fear of a conference championship game to mess up their season, by the way, it gives them a bye in the first round or an opportunity to get a bye in the first round. Why do we allow Notre Dame so much leeway? Why are they on the playoff management committee as a single entity? That group is made up of conference commissioners and Notre Dame's athletic director. Think about that. All commissioners and one athletic director from Notre Dame. How's that fair?
Yeah, it's just not right. They should not have one person representing their school while we've got one person representing 16 schools and another person representing 18, but Notre Dame gets their own special guy in there. It's absurd. It really is. They need to either join a conference or they need to not be in that meeting. I mean, there's no way they should have the same presence as a commissioner. It just shouldn't be.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
So something needs to give on that. I don't think you get to be one school and be treated like an entire conference. That's just, something's got to give on that. So anyway, I know in the comment section, Notre Dame people are going to be in there going, oh, you're always picking on us. Look, it's just ridiculous. You should not be the sacred cow. Look, you got a great school. I'll give you that, but you're not that great. So don't get it twisted. Anyway, I had to go ahead and get that off my chest because I'm glad to see there's somebody else feels the way I do about Notre Dame because it's just annoying. Who the heck are you? Anyway, did want to cover this, the SEC spring meetings, and then, of course, a little shot at Notre Dame. Had to have that for my own good. But anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit that little button right there. Won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video. YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
You have to not lose the game before you can ever win the game.